Well, welcome to my living room, and more specifically to a special area in my living room. This is my library table. I refer to it a lot in all of my videos because it's a really special place to me, and I spend a lot of time here. I have most of the books that I'm fascinated with at the moment, whether they're gardening books or flower arranging books or history books. I keep them all here so that they are at the ready and I can open them and peruse them at any time. Unlike a lot of people who I think have coffee table books and never look at them, I refer to mine very, very frequently, and it's where I get lots of my ideas and lots of inspiration. But let me tell you how this kind of still life came together, because it's not expensive at all to create a look like this that looks like it's in a magazine, but really it was very economical to compose. So number one, I started out with just a table that I got at a garage sale. It was an old beat up table. I think I got it years ago, maybe for $4 or $5. And then what I did was just put a really nice cloth on it. This is just a burlap tablecloth that I got from Ballard Designs years ago to give it a little bit more oomph and flassiness underneath it. I just took an old blanket so that there is another layer underneath. That gives it a little bit more volume and makes it kind of puff out around the perimeter in a lovely way, I think. And then, this is probably my best tip. I ordered online a custom fitting piece of glass that perfectly is measured to top this table. It has a 1-inch bevel around the edge. I got it from a company called Dulles Glass and Mirror, and I'll put a link in the description so that you guys can access it too. I don't know how many tables I have covered with their glass. I get it to a certain size thickness, and it makes the whole composition come together in, I think, a really expensive looking way. So there where I place all of my wonderful books, and then this beautiful arrangement. Now, I always have some kind of massive arrangement, and as the months progress, I'll show you all of the different looks that I can get. But whatever I put in the center as a centerpiece is always dramatic, and it is always seasonal, and it always is something that is large enough to make a statement. So in this case here, this is how this came together. I took a column candle stand. That's kind of hard for me to say. That is made out of wood. It's very inexpensive. I can't even remember where I got it, maybe a couple dollars at the dollar store. This woven basket that I just love came from Goodwill. I think it was all of $3 or $4. And so I just created a pedestal vase by putting this wicker basket on top, centered very carefully on top of this columnar candle stand. Now, let me show you inside. Well, I am taking a break from gardening. It's tea time this afternoon, and I'm having, obviously, my tea, but I'm also having something a little bit sweet and delicious in it. And you guys know how loyal and enthusiastic I am about Manuka honey. It's got prebiotics, antioxidants. It is great for gut health, which is really a consideration for me. But most importantly, an even bigger consideration is it is absolutely delicious. Dare I say, almost decadent. I have become a huge fan of this ever since I started using it. Now I'm pretty much exclusive to this brand. In fact, I think I just made Stewart today because I found an extra bottle of it and I gifted it to him, which, by the way, is something to think about. If you are trying to give a gift to somebody for, for any holiday, their birthday, or the upcoming Christmas season or whatever, then I highly recommend giving them some Manuka honey. It's especially great for people who have everything, because if you have everything but you don't have your health, well, that's not a great thing. And this contributes to not only their palate, but also to their well-being. So if you want to try out this absolutely delicious gift from New Zealand, then I highly recommend that you gift yourself a big old cup of tea with delicious Manuka honey. Now, let me show you inside. Because obviously baskets aren't waterproof, I have a Folgers coffee can in there. I find an empty plastic Folgers coffee can so functional on so many different levels that I tend to kind of hoard them. So I can have a large arrangement in here that sits in here in a very stable way, and it can hold lots of flowers. So now for the flower arrangement itself. I love the way it came together. I recently went to Simple Acre Cut Flower Farm in Mustang, and I brought home buckets of fresh flowers from my friend Kristen, and I came home with just masses of Queen Anne's lace in both white and this kind of burgundy color, and they're the things that inspired the rest of the palette. So she had some like-colored celosia that also has that deep red. And I've got some kind of purple toned flowers of, I believe is it Thai basil, she told me, or cinnamon basil. And then in addition to that, I've got some different colored celosia. So just different flowery forms. But what I like are these round umbral forms that are then accented by kind of the more vertical spires of all of the different types of flowers. Now, when I got them home, I wanted to add a little bit of my own garden so that I could create a look that was distinctly personal to my house. So, of course, I've got some Nandina foliage in here, which I find indispensable in almost every flower arrangement. And right now, as it happens, the Nandina berries are the perfect plum color. They haven't adopted their full red color that they will at Christmas time. They have yet to adopt the intensity of that shade, but they're a beautiful plum color that really accentuates and is a great color echo, one of my favorite things, to all of these other flowers, the berries, the foliage, and then I've also got, as an illuminating touch, I've got some white snow on summer. So I think it all comes together just beautiful. I like my arrangements to be loose and airy. I like to channel Constance Spry a little bit more, I think, than FTD, and I'll put some information on Constance Spry below. She was a wonderful flower arranger who just really kind of set the stage for these kinds of garden to table, garden to vase, loose flowery arrangements. So I think it came all together just beautifully. Now, as an additional touch, I sent tubs out because this is just not only the flower color of the season, but it's also the fruit color of the season. And I got some beautiful, intensely colored plums that are the exact hue and provides another color echo. So you may ask, do I really live like this? If you weren't here looking into my house, would it actually look like this? And I would say that 75% of the time, yes, it does look like this. Stewart, my photographer, is shaking his head. This is a gift I give to myself. It's not for my guests. It's for me. It makes this a beautiful area for me to hang out. It makes me feel special. It makes me appreciate the beauty of my garden indoors and others' gardens indoors when it's too hot to enjoy them outside. It's a very quiet, contemplative spot. This in the living room, especially in the winter time, is where I meditate in the morning, so I can light a candle and I am just surrounded by all of this beauty. So this is just a little snapshot into my living room and into my life. So I hope you'll copy some of these ideas and employ them in your own homes. Well, you guys, it is windy, it is humid, but nevertheless, it's pretty enough for me to be outside this morning cutting massive amounts of hydrangeas, these oak leaf hydrangeas and these Annabelle hydrangeas, to bring inside for a dried flower bouquet that will last well into the winter time. I've been cutting them as fresh flowers, and now it's time for me to kind of make that transition. So yesterday I was showing you how to know when it's time to cut them for a dried bouquet. And here is basically the difference. If you see these two different blooms here, So you can kind of see that this one is still white and it's fresh and it's kind of delicate. This one has already started to dry. It's adopted this kind of limey green color. And if you touch it, it sounds kind of papery. So these are the ones that I'm going for, these kind of papery sounding ones. Those are the ones that are going to dry beautifully in the bouquet with little attention. If I cut them when they're fresh, they won't dry very well, and they will just, they will just age just like a regular cut fresh flower, and I'll have to toss them. So I want to make sure I get them when they are in their mature state for cutting. So then, how do I know where along the stem to cut them? Well, the plant doesn't really care. The plant itself will benefit from me cutting. So I just determine where I'm going to make that cut based on how long I want the stems to be. So I don't care too much if I'm doing it right above like a leaf node or not. All I really care about is the length of the stem. So you can cut them just about anywhere along the stem, and that is determined by how long I want the cut flower itself to be, and maybe the height of my vase. Now, I find inspiration everywhere, and each year I cut a huge bouquet, particularly of these oak leaf hydrangeas, because they make a mammoth arrangement for me to put on my library table in my living room, and I can show you that maybe later when we go inside. But today I'm taking my inspiration from something that I saw in a magazine years ago. If you guys are like me, then you probably have all sorts of tear sheets, things that you have pinned or that you've saved on Instagram as inspiration for later. So I guess what really enamored me of this picture was the vases, even though they're pottery. Stewart, I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you see that now? Okay. The vases themselves almost look like they were tree trunks. They're a dark pottery. And I just happen to have some vases in my arsenal that look like tree trunks. Some of them I made, and some of them I just had in my vase stash downstairs in the basement. So this one I made. And if you want to know how I made this bark vase, then I did a video for Southern Living on it, and we'll put a link to it at the bottom of this post so you can head there and see exactly how we did it. These other ones I have, they're hollow, and they're kind of a faux bois, and I got these years ago at a thrift shop. I got 2 of them and they were $12. I love them. You can kind of see here that they're 2 different heights. So I have 2 of those. And I always like to do things in 3s, so I've got a combo of 3 going here now. Now, I could do these huge, or I could do them a little bit more restrained. And today I think I'm going to do them a little bit more restrained. I obviously have plenty to work with, and I've got more on the shrub if I want to cut more. So these I'm going to do, let me show you this picture again. It looks to me like it's kind of a blend of both fresh ones and dried ones, though probably I'll just end up eyeballing it. Now, some of you have asked, do I have water in the vase when I'm bringing them in for a dried arrangement, or do I not? Well, this is where I would tell you to just experiment, because I do it both ways. Normally what I do, however, and inside these faux bois vases, I just have some plastic takeout containers, and I have about 1 inch or 2 of water in the container. That way they will stay kind of fresh, particularly the leaves, for a couple of days, but there is a small enough amount of water in there that it will evaporate, and then they will just dry in place, and all I have to do is enjoy it from that point on. if I put too much water in here, they would stay fresher longer, and I guess eventually this water would evaporate over time, but it could also get kind of stinky. So I don't use too much water, and I also don't use anything like oasis or any kind of agent. I guess I could put some chicken wire in here or something, or some tape as a grid to support the stems, but I don't want to put anything in there that over time will start to kind of rot and smell, because again, these arrangements are going to be good into autumn, into winter, until, quite frankly, probably next summer I replace them again with fresh new blooms. So the rest of it is just kind of how I want to do it. This was the one that was kind of half dried, half fresh. So I think this one will still be a pretty good candidate. And sometimes I just start pulling them and seeing what inspires me in the shape of the flower to know which vase I want to put it in. And yes, sometimes I do work on 3 simultaneously. On this one, I have a little Lazy Susan, so I'll be able to show you how it can go and how it looks 360. So I've got my cut right here. I'm going to cut it again to make sure that if I want a little bit of water drawn up into it, then I'm going to I can either smash this with a hammer, or I can just cut it vertically. And I think I'm just going to cut it vertically. Now, I do like the way the leaves look in the arrangement. Granted, they won't dry, and eventually over time they'll get crispy and I'll just have to discard them. But when the arrangement is new and I've got a little bit of water in here, I can enjoy that fresh green leaf for a little while. So I'm just going to kind of put that in there. I think I'm going to take a little bit more off. And then I'm just going to start working. I always remove any foliage, any leaves that are going to be underwater, because I don't want them to rot. So for this one in particular, let me find my shears here. Same thing here. I'm just going to do a vertical cut right there and remove any tattered leaves. Let me move this one out of the way, because I think I'm going to work on this one in the back first. Stewart, can you see that okay? Can you see that? Okay. Sometimes I forget which camera I'm supposed to look at, and if I look at the wrong camera, always remember whose fault it is. It is always Stewart's fault. Stewart is my photographer. Somebody asked me, does he mind if you call him Your Man Friday? And I said he doesn't mind if he knows that I, in a pinch, will be his Girl Friday if he needs me. We have each other's backs that way. Okay, so I'm going to continue to cut this. And sometimes I like it to be a little bit asymmetrical, so that the weight is a little bit more on one side than the other. Now you can see right here in the back, I can see that I've got some leaves, and in the front I don't. So here is another tip, if I can find an example. If you have sometimes a stem that has nothing but leaves on it, like this one, save these, because what you can do later then is just tuck them so that you can see that leaf in front, and I don't even have to have a flower head or anything on it. Okay, so I think I'm going to steal from this one because I love the arch of this and I like the fact that it's got some leaves on it. This is all very free form. It's not methodical at all, you guys. It's just going with the flow. I'm in no hurry. Ooh, that's starting to look kind of pretty. So now I want one. Ooh, that's got good drama. What do you think about that one, Stewart? Okay. This one I'd already cut, but I'm going to cut it again. Take off some of these lower leaves. Now, if I wanted these to really dry perfectly, completely in 360, then yes, some of you have asked, would I bring them inside and dry them upside down? Yes, I could do that. And if I wanted them to be perfect and dry perfectly all around, I would do that. But these are actually going to dry and form fit into the vase itself, so I'm not so concerned about that. I'm going to get the look, put it in place, and it's going to kind of stay that way for as long as it dries. Let me get a taller one. And normally, just the way I do pots, I kind of do this thing where I like things in threes. And there's kind of mama bear, papa bear, and baby bear. And this is going to kind of be the papa bear. This, when I use 3 of them like this, it kind of takes the place of one huge arrangement. I can do 3 at various staggered heights. I think this one I'm going to put on my dining room table. Cut that. Let's see. See that beautiful blend of the lime green and that kind of fresh white, because the oak leaf hydrangeas have more white to them as they dry. The Annabelles dry pretty much in this lime green color with little variation in color. But these oak leaves, and by the way, if you want to know what varieties these are, the really long oak leaf hydrangeas are snowflake. The ones that are a little bit shorter are, I'm not sure what. But, and this year, I'm not sure why the snowflakes didn't get quite as long and pendulous as they normally do. I think because it got so hot so fast, they matured. A lot of times, these will get almost a foot long. This year, I think they may be topped out at about 10 inches. Some are longer than others. Typically, though, they are really long. Now, you'll also notice on these oak leaf hydrangeas that there's kind of a good side and a bad side. One side has already started to brown. The other side is still fresh. So I put the fresh side up. Now, will they begin to brown over time as the arrangement ages? Yes, they will. But they will kind of take on this beautiful tawny color that is really pretty and I think speaks to fall. So it looks summery when they're a little bit younger and more fresh, and then it takes on this more of an autumnal quality. Okay, so here I had planned on being a little bit more restrained, and it's already gotten pretty large, but I think it's looking beautiful. And again, this is going to be in the center of my dining room table, and my dining room table is fairly large, so I think the scale of this will be just fine. But I think it looks really pretty. And how do you know you're finished? You know you're finished when you run out of time. So I could keep tweaking this, but I think I am pretty happy with that. Stewart, do you see any place else where I might need some leaves or another touch of green? But I think it looks pretty. Okay, so I've done this one. And now I think I'm going to continue with the smaller one. So I'm going to set this aside. Did I lollygag, Stewart? I tried not to lollygag. And now I'm going to do this smaller one. Now, this smaller one would be great if you just wanted to have it like in your guest bath, or you wanted to have it by your bedside table. This would be good for that. And this one, I think I will be a little bit more restrained on. So, like I say, I did a video, and go ahead and take off any little bips and bops that are already browning. It's been so windy, and that wind just really desiccates and dries out these blooms much more quickly than they would otherwise. But like I say, we did a video on how to make these bark vases, and basically it's just taking pieces of bark and hot gluing it to some kind of container. Ooh, that looks kind of sweet, I think. So I think on this one, I'm just gonna pretty much stop there. This does have a tiny, tiny little container in here with just a little bit of water, but I think it's small, I think it's charming. It all came from my garden. So thanks for arranging flowers with me. You guys have a great day, and I'm going to finish up this last one. Here's an LV Design quick tip. I just planted a bunch of this gorgeous purslane at the base of these sunshine ligustrums, and there'll be a video up as to how I did that. But I wanted to repeat this same jolt of color and texture in this basket that's got scented geraniums and some existing coleus in it. But I would really have to rip apart this planting to incorporate this gorgeous purslane in it. So what I'm going to do for now is just tuck it in there, hide the rim of the plastic pot with all of that effusive foliage that's growing over the edge. You can't see it. It's at exactly the right depth. I can plant it later if I so choose, or for the duration of fall, I can pretty much just leave it in this pot. And because it's a drought tolerant annual, or actually it will go to seed and come back next year, I don't really even need to worry about that pot drying out prematurely. So there I get this same rhythm and repetition of that color throughout this corner just by dropping and plopping.
You know, a garden like this is so gorgeous, but I feel like I'm constantly battling things like snails and sow bugs and rabbits and critters.
Because you are. It seems that way, but
Yeah.
there's a few different things that you can do.
Okay.
I've been trying to establish a beautiful stand of zinnias.
And
I
they're
planted
gorgeous.
some seedlings out here,
Okay.
literally last night, and when I came out here this morning, some of
nothing
them.
left.
Oh yeah, there's nothing left.
So you
Something
think
has
an
chewed
insect
that.
did that?
Well, I don't know. I need to have one of those hidden video cameras that'll show me what critter came and devoured this at night. It could have been a rabbit, it could have been a slug, it could have been, who knows, it could have been. I have a lot of problems with sow bugs, but there are a couple of things that you can do. I came out and I sprinkled some snail and slug bait.
Okay.
And this is a
Oh,
particularly,
that's what it looks like.
it's like a pellet, but this is a really good variety of bait, Linda, because this is garden safe. It's non-toxic, it won't hurt your pets.
And also to make these little seedlings less delectable to slugs and snails and
Exactly.
insects. What else can you do?
Well, I like to use this 5% 7 dust. It's very non-toxic, very benign as far as insecticides go. And I'm just going to sprinkle them as soon as they germinate, Linda. I mean, when they're very, very tiny. Anytime you see a leaf that has a big bite out of it, 7 dust is a good solution.
Okay. And you have to be careful about how you water too.
You do have to be careful because with zinnias, probably more than any other annual I know, powdery mildew and rust are really problems.
Okay.
And you want to have a glorious stand of zinnias without all of that foliage looking really diseased and unhealthy. So there are a couple of things you can do. One is watering at the base of the plant itself.
Okay.
And this is true when they're seedlings. It's also true when they're taller. You want to water in the morning, and you want to water at the base of the plant so that that foliage is allowed to dry out during the day, and it doesn't have those water droplets on it as kind of a vector for fungal infections.
Right.
So then you can just cut and enjoy them. They're a long-lasting flower that will last not only long in your garden, but as a cut flower inside, well into the fall.
There's a real art to watering.
Well, we probably in Oklahoma couldn't survive without having an irrigation system, but you do need to use them wisely because water is a precious resource. So what we want to do is make sure that our timing of watering is the most beneficial. We want to put them on very early in the morning when water pressure is high, when the winds aren't so high, and will blow away all of our precious water, and we don't want to lose it to evaporation. So the best thing is to water early in the morning, even if you need to do subsequent waterings to get a really deep penetration of your lawn surface. So you could run through the settings once, then run through them again. But believe me, doing it at high noon with high winds is not going to achieve the results we want.
How much water? How much do you want to put on the
Well,
lawn?
ideally, you want probably, it varies depending on what your exposure is, if you face south or if you face north, but probably about 1 inch to 2 inches of water a week, depending on the season and how dry it is and how desiccating those winds are. You want about that much water.
Once a week?
1 to 2 inches a week.
Per week, okay.
Which might mean that we have to water multiple times, even a day.
Okay.
And to determine that, you can put a small container there and just see how rapidly the water begins to accumulate in that container. But Linda, it depends on so many things. Do you have Bermuda grass? Do you have fescue grass? Are you in full sun? Are you in full shade? I think probably learning how to water wisely and not waste water is probably one of the single most important gardening skills you can have.
You know, for a lot of people, thinking that you can plant something now to enjoy the summer is kind of out of their realm of reality, but you really can, particularly with basil.
With basil, there's a lot of things we can't grow in Oklahoma, but there are some things we can grow, and basil is one of them. And we have a long window of time because it grows so rapidly once the seeds germinate. And I would encourage people to grow it from seed. It's extremely easy to do. There are so many different varieties, Linda.
And you've just thrown some seed out here, and these are already coming up?
These are already coming up, but you can see that they're kind of congested. And it is so difficult for us to sacrifice a seedling when we need to thin seedlings.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is demonstrate how to just very, very gently divide these seedlings.
Now, how far apart do you really want them ideally?
Well, this is a miniature variety, so I'm going to plant them about 2 to 4 inches apart. Now, Linda, I've got the soil moist, so see, it's very friable and soft, and I'm just gently tugging. You can see the little baby root system there. I'm very gently separating those. And then if you would drill just a small hole in there for me.
Sure. How's that?
That's good. And then I'm just going to very gently, because these are extremely tender baby roots, I'm going to put that in there. Again, this soil is moist. And very gently tap it and put it into place.
And then how long before you can start pulling this and enjoying it?
Harvesting it? Well, actually, as soon as you have, let's say, the second set of true leaves, you can even use the very tiny leaves in a salad or as a garnish.
Right.
If you want to make pesto, you want the leaves to be considerably larger.
Okay.
But these will grow so rapidly in the Oklahoma sunshine. To take care of this plant over time, this is a Thai basil. I'm going to pinch this back.
Oh, so you're getting rid of the flowers again.
I'm getting rid of the flowers. I really don't want the flowers. So I'm going to keep that pinched back because I want it to bush out. The more I harvest, the bushier the plant is.
We like that.
What I don't want to do, Linda, is to go down into the really stiff, woody area of the plant.
Okay.
I want to pinch it up at the top where it's still soft and fleshy.
Perfect.
And then I can take these in and I can use these in my kitchen.
Let's eat.
Okay.